When my son stopped calling me mom, it didn't happen with an argument or a fight. It happened quietly, like the way seasons change without anyone noticing. One morning, I called him like I always did. "Good morning, Beta," I said softly over the phone. He answered, but something in his voice was distant. It was polite, almost too polite. Like I was someone from work, not the woman who had held his hand through childhood fevers and late-night exams. I remember smiling after that call, pretending it didn't hurt, but deep down, I felt something break. A small, invisible thread that used to tie us together. Warmth, laughter, routine. It suddenly felt loose. When he got married, everyone told me this would happen. "They change after marriage," one of my friends said. "It's normal." But I never believed it. My son wasn't like that. He had always been kind, always thoughtful. The boy who used to bring me flowers from the garden after every rain. The one who used to say, "Mom, you're my best friend." I held on to those memories like precious beads, thinking they'd protect me from whatever change life brought. But nothing prepares you for the silence that comes after love fades. Not in anger, but in distance. The house started to feel quieter. His visits grew shorter. His calls came less often. And when he did come, he came with someone else, his wife, a sweet girl at first, or at least I thought so. She smiled politely, called me auntie, and looked at her phone while I served them tea. I tried to ignore it all. I told myself it was just a phase, that he was busy building a new life. But a mother's heart knows when something is slipping away. The day it truly hit me was when he came over and introduced me to one of his friends. "This is Mrs. Khan," he said. "Not my mom. Not even Ami. Just Mrs. Khan." I smiled and nodded like it didn't matter. But when I went back to my room that night, I cried quietly into my pillow. Because in that moment, I realized my son hadn't stopped loving me. He had simply stopped needing me. My name is Farah Khan. I'm 58 years old and I live alone in a small 2-bedroom house on the edge of the city. It's the same house where my son, Amir, grew up. Every wall here holds a memory of him. His first steps near the kitchen door, the pencil marks on the wall where I measured his height each year, and the small handprints he made on the garden wall with blue paint when he was in kindergarten. When you live alone, memories are your company. They speak to you, quietly. Some days, they comfort you. Some days, they break your heart. Amir was my only child. His father passed away when he was just 6 years old. From then on, it was just the two of us. I worked as a school teacher for 30 years, and every single thing I did was for him. I remember skipping meals so I could buy him new shoes for school, staying up late to help him study for exams, even taking extra classes to pay for his university. He used to say, "Mom, when I grow up, I'll take care of you. You'll never have to worry about anything." And I believed him, not because I needed him to take care of me, but because it felt good to know that he cared. When he graduated from college, I was the proudest mother in the world. I still remember sitting in the audience, clapping until my hands hurt as he walked up to the stage. I cried that day, but they were tears of joy. After graduation, Amir got a job in another city, a good one, something he had always dreamed of. At first, we talked every day. He called me every morning before work, sometimes even during lunch. He'd tell me everything, from office gossip to what he had for dinner. And every weekend, he came home. The house came alive when he did. Laughter, music, the smell of his favorite food filling the kitchen. Then 2 years later, he met Sarah. Sarah was beautiful, kind, educated, polite. The first time Amir brought her home, I could see how much he liked her. I was happy for him. I really was. Every mother wants to see her son loved. They got married a year later in a small, simple ceremony. I remember looking at Amir during the wedding and thinking how handsome he looked, how grown up he had become. I told myself, "Farah, your job is done. You've raised a good man." But life after marriage changes things, slowly, in ways you don't notice at first. At the beginning, everything was fine. They visited often, called regularly, even sent me pictures from their honeymoon. Sarah would call me Ami and ask for my recipes. I felt included, loved, like I had gained a daughter, not lost a son. But as months passed, small things began to shift. The calls became shorter, the visits less frequent. When I called, Amir would say, "Ami, I'll call you back later. Sarah's tired," or "Ami, we're busy this weekend." I told myself not to be needy. I didn't want to be that kind of mother, the one who clings too tightly. So I smiled through the silence. I cooked his favorite dishes every time I thought he might visit, even though most of the time he didn't. Sometimes, when the loneliness felt heavy, I'd sit on the porch at night and look at the stars. I'd imagine him as a little boy again, running across the yard with his toy car, laughing. Those memories were like soft lights in the dark. They reminded me that I had once been needed, once been loved in the purest way. But love changes shape when people grow up. What once was daily affection becomes occasional check-ins. What once was excitement to come home becomes polite obligation. One day, Amir called and said, "Ami, we're moving to another city." Sarah got a promotion. I congratulated them, hiding the lump in my throat. He said, "It's not too far. We'll visit when we can." After that, months went by without a visit. Birthdays came and went. Festivals passed. I sent messages that sometimes got replies, sometimes didn't. I told my friends he was busy, that young people have their own lives. But deep down, I knew something had changed forever. The few times he did visit, Sarah seemed distant. She was polite, yes, but there was always a wall between us, invisible, yet strong. She spoke to me as if she were visiting someone else's home, not her husband's mother's house. Once I made her favorite biryani and asked, "Sarah, do you like it?" She smiled and said, "It's nice, Auntie." That word, Auntie, it pierced my heart. She used to call me Ami. Still, I said nothing. I told myself maybe she was just being formal, maybe it didn't mean anything. But mothers notice the small things, the small hesitations, the half smiles, the way someone avoids your eyes. And the more distant she grew, the more distant my son became too. It was like watching your own shadow fade away while standing in the same place. I never blamed Sarah. Maybe I wasn't easy to live with either. I had my ways, my habits, my need to feel involved. But I wish Amir had remembered that all I wanted was a little space in his new world. Not control, not authority, just a place in his heart. Even now, I sometimes sit by the phone, hoping it will ring. And when it does, even if it's a short call, I still light up like I used to. Because when you love your child, no distance can truly erase that love. But something was building inside me, a quiet storm I didn't see coming. And soon, life would show me just how fragile a mother's place can be. The distance between us didn't come overnight. It crept in slowly, like a fog that thickens without warning. You can still see the outlines of what used to be there, but everything looks a little less clear. At first, it was the little things. He stopped asking me how my day was. He stopped calling me before going to sleep. And when he did call, it felt like he was checking a box. The warmth that once filled his voice was gone, replaced by polite, distant words. Sometimes I'd hear laughter in the background during his calls. Sarah's voice, soft and happy. It made me smile and ache at the same time. I was happy he was happy, but I couldn't help feeling like an outsider listening through a window. One evening, I decided to visit them. It had been almost 6 months since I'd last seen them. I called first, of course. "Amir, I'm thinking of visiting this weekend. It's been so long." He paused for a moment and said, Sure, Ami, but Sarah's parents are also coming?" "It might be a little crowded," I smiled through the silence. "That's okay, Beta. I can come another time," he said. "That might be better. Maybe next month, and never came." Still, I tried to keep hope alive. I knitted a blanket for them, a soft one in cream and blue, the same colors I used for Amir's baby blanket. I planned to send it by courier, but something in me wanted to give it to him myself, so I decided to surprise them. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when I arrived at their apartment. I carried the blanket neatly folded in a small gift bag. I rang the bell twice. Sarah opened the door. Her smile faded when she saw me. "Oh, Anna, you didn't tell us you were coming?" Her voice was polite, but her eyes said something else. Discomfort. "I was nearby," I said gently, "and I thought I'd surprise you both." She hesitated, then said, "Amir's not home. He went out with friends." "Oh," I said softly. "It's okay. I'll wait." She didn't invite me in right away. She stood there blocking the doorway for a second too long. Finally, she stepped aside. "Please, you come in." The apartment was beautiful, modern, and spotless. Not a trace of my son's childhood anywhere. No photos of us, no reminders of where he came from. Just neat walls, minimalist furniture, and the faint smell of candles. I sat down on the couch. Sarah brought me water, then went back to scrolling on her phone. I placed the gift bag on the table and said, I made this for you both." She glanced at it, smiled faintly, and said, "Thank you, Auntie." "That's sweet." We sat in silence for a while, the kind that feels heavy and uncomfortable. Then she said, "Auntie, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but sometimes Amir feels pressured when you come without notice." Pressured. That word stung. I looked at her for a moment and said, "I'm sorry, Beta. I didn't mean to make him uncomfortable. I just miss him sometimes." She nodded. "I understand, but he's really trying to build his own space, you know." I smiled weakly. "Of course. Every bird needs its sky." I stayed another 10 minutes before leaving. As I reached the door, Amir came in. He looked surprised to see me. "Ami, you're here?" "I was just leaving," I said quietly. He gave me a quick hug, but it felt different. Brief, distracted. "Next time, just call first, okay?" he said gently. I nodded, smiled, and walked away with the same blanket still in my bag. That night, I sat on my bed, holding the blanket against my chest. It still smelled like the yarn I'd spent weeks knitting with my own hands. I whispered to myself, maybe he'll call tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. Months went by after that visit. I didn't call much anymore. I thought maybe giving them space would bring him closer again. Sometimes silence can make people realize what they're missing, or at least that's what I told myself. But silence only made me invisible. One evening, it was raining heavily. I was sitting by the window watching the water drip from the roof. The phone rang. For a moment, my heart jumped. I thought it was Amir, but it was Sarah. "Hello, Auntie," she said, her voice calm but cold. "I wanted to talk to you about something." "Yes, Beta?" I said. She took a short pause before speaking. "Amir and I feel that it might be better if you don't visit for a while." I froze. "Did I do something wrong?" I asked quietly. No, she said quickly. "It's just Amir's been very busy, and when you come, he feels torn between work and spending time with you. It's stressing him out." I didn't know what to say. I just listened. "I hope you understand," she continued. We're not trying to hurt you, Auntie. We just need some space." I forced a smile she couldn't even see. "Of course, Beta. I understand." After the call, I sat in silence. The sound of rain outside felt heavier now, almost cruel. I looked at the photo frame on the table. Amir is a little boy, smiling with his missing front teeth, holding my hand. I ran my fingers over the glass. I whispered, "How did we end up here, my son?" For days, I couldn't eat properly. I'd make tea and forget to drink it. I kept checking my phone, but he didn't call. Not once. Sometimes I'd draft a message, "Are you okay?" Or just wanted to hear your voice, but I'd delete it before sending. I didn't want to be a burden. Then one morning, I got a text. It was from Amir. He wrote, "Ami, Sarah and I will come by this weekend. Need to talk." My heart leapt. Finally, maybe things would be all right again. That weekend, I cleaned the whole house. I cooked his favorite food, chicken curry, rice, and kheer for dessert. I even wore the blue shawl he bought me years ago. When I heard the car pull up, I hurried to the door. They both came in quietly. Amir didn't hug me right away. Sarah sat down first. I tried to smile. "You both look tired." "Sit." I made lunch. Amir didn't smile back. He looked uneasy. "Ami," he said softly, "we need to talk about something important." I sat across from them. "Yes, Beta?" He glanced at Sarah before speaking. "Sarah's parents have asked us to move closer to them. Her mother isn't well, and she needs help." I nodded. "That's good, Beta. Family comes first." He hesitated again. "Actually, we've already decided to go. We're leaving next week." My smile faded. "Next week? So soon?" He nodded. "It's for the best, Ami. It'll make things easier for everyone. Everyone." I understood what that meant. I tried to hold my voice steady. "Of course. You should go where your heart leads you." Sarah looked at me and said, "Auntie, we'll visit when we can." I simply nodded. After they left, I stood by the window, watching their car disappear down the road. The food sat untouched on the table. The kheer was still warm. That night, for the first time in years, I locked the door and didn't leave the porch light on. I used to keep it burning, hoping he might visit unexpectedly. But that night, I knew he wouldn't. He wasn't my little boy anymore. He had a new home, a new family, and a new world, one where I didn't fit anymore. After Amir and Sarah moved away, the house fell into a kind of silence I had never known before. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy kind. The one that sits on your chest and makes every sound echo. For the first few weeks, I kept myself busy. I cleaned rooms that didn't need cleaning. I rearranged the kitchen shelves, fixed old curtains, watered the plants twice a day. I told myself it was just a phase. He'd call soon, he'd visit soon, but days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. My phone stayed quiet. Once I saw a photo of them on social media, smiling at a family dinner surrounded by Sarah's relatives. He looked happy, truly happy, and yet my heart felt both proud and broken at the same time. It's a strange thing, how a mother's love can hold joy and pain in the same breath. I stopped waiting by the phone. I stopped expecting calls on my birthday. I stopped cooking too much food just in case. I told myself, Farah, you have to learn to live for yourself now. It wasn't easy. At night, I would still wake up thinking I heard him calling Amy. I'd open my eyes and realize it was only the sound of the wind or a cat outside. The loneliness felt colder in those moments. One evening, my neighbor, an old friend named Yasmin, came by. She looked at me and said, Farah, you've lost weight? You don't look well, I smiled faintly. I'm fine, Yasmin. Just getting old, she sat down beside me. You need to stop waiting, my friend. Sometimes children forget what we did for them, not because they're cruel, but because they're busy being who we raised them to be. Her words stayed with me. So that night, I thought about them again and again. We spend so many years teaching our children to fly, and when they do, we forget that flying means leaving the nest. I started to make small changes. I joined a local women's group that met every Thursday. We shared tea, stories, and laughter. For the first time in months, I heard my own voice laugh again. It sounded strange at first, almost unfamiliar. I also began tutoring children in my neighborhood, teaching them math and reading the same way I once taught Amer. They filled my home with noise again, the good kind of noise, the kind that reminded me I still had purpose. But even with all the small joys, some nights were hard. I'd sit in the living room, the light from the TV flickering across Amir's photos. I'd whisper softly, I hope you're eating well, my son. I hope she takes care of you. One day, I fell sick. Nothing serious, just a bad flu that made it hard to move around. The house felt even lonelier then. I stayed in bed for 2 days, too weak to cook. On the third day, the doorbell rang. I thought it was Yasmin, but when I opened the door, I froze. It was Amir. He looked older, tired, and maybe even regretful. He held a small bag of groceries. Ami, he said softly, I heard you weren't well. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, my eyes filling with tears I tried to hide. He stepped forward and hugged me. Not the quick, distracted kind, but the real one, the kind that feels like coming home. I'm sorry, Ami, he whispered. I should have been here sooner. I smiled through my tears. You're here now, Beta. That's all that matters. We spent that evening together. He made tea, terribly, but I drank it anyway. We talked about simple things, the weather, his work, the garden. We didn't mention the months of silence. We didn't need to. Sometimes love doesn't need explanations. When he left that night, I didn't ask when he'd come again. I just said, take care, my son. And he said, I love you, Ami. The words were soft, but they healed something inside me. After that day, something changed between us. It wasn't like before, no daily calls or long visits, but it was enough. He called more often now, sometimes just for a few minutes to ask how I was. He'd send pictures of what he cooked, and I'd tease him about how bad it looked.